Chapter 16, Social Change. What is social change? Sociologists define social change as the transformation of a culture over time. Social change can be deliberate or unplanned, intended or unintentional. Some changes are more controversial than others. Our culture evolves over time, as do our social institutions, the family, work, religion, education, and political systems. People born even one generation apart can have different overall life experiences as a result of ongoing processes of social change. Consider how different life might be for American children growing up in the immediate aftermath of the tragedies of September 11th, 2001, or for those who have never known a time without cell phones and the internet. Sources of social change. Major physical events: hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. Demographic factors: the aging of baby boomers. Discoveries and innovations: fire, the wheel, the internet. The rate at which social change happens varies, with some historical periods experiencing rapid social change and others experiencing more gradual change. It is easy to identify particular historical periods where major social transformation was unmistakable: the Renaissance, the French Revolution, the Civil War, the women's rights movement. But it's important to realize that social change is occurring at all times, not just at moments of obvious cultural or political upheaval. The most important contributions to social change have been made through collective action, like the Civil Rights Movement. Social change is often the result of deliberate and individual human action. Jonas Salk, for example, developed a cure for polio, and Helen Keller overcame her own handicaps to advocate for the rights of the disabled. But our most important contributions to social change are made through collective action. The Civil Rights Movement, led by Martin Luther King Jr., for example, fundamentally reshaped American society. Collective behavior: a group or crowd of people who form together to take action toward a shared goal. Collective behavioral theories suggest that such occurrences are often organized and maintain a certain amount of order. The following slides outline sociological theories of collective behavior. Collective behavior can take three forms: crowd, temporary gathering of individuals, spontaneous or planned, with a common focus; riot, continuous disorderly behavior by a group of people that disturbs the peace and is directed towards other people or property; mass behavior, large groups of people engage in similar behaviors without necessarily being in the same place. These three types are not mutually exclusive. In the real world, they may overlap whenever collective behavior actually occurs. Example of a crowd: a street performer, such as a mime, trying to entertain people as they walk by. In time, a crowd starts to develop. Example of a riot: the Woodstock 1999 concert was supposed to be both a cultural shaping event and a financial success. However, it failed on both counts because of poor security, high prices, and lack of sanitation. With such tenuous conditions, the crowd began to vent their frustration on the evening of the last day by tearing down and burning fences, breaking into ATM machines, and looting vendor booths and setting them afire. Example of mass behavior: mass behavior can range from buying a certain type of jeans or getting a tattoo to bidding on eBay. It can also include fads, fashions, and social dilemmas. We'll talk about these in the upcoming slides. Contagion theory. Individuals who join a crowd or mob become infected by a mob mentality and lose the ability to reason. This is one of the earliest theories of collective action, developed by Gustave Le Bon in 1896. Contagion theorists compared such groups to herds of animals, where individuality and rational thought disappear and the collective action takes over. Emergent norm theory states that individual members of a crowd make their own decisions about behavior. Norms are created through others' acceptance or rejection of these behaviors. Emergent norm theory is more recent, from the work of Turner and Killian in 1987. This theory argues that collective behavior is not as simple as Le Bon suggests, and that there are any number of factors that motivate people to participate in crowd activities. The group is guided by norms, shared cultural expectations for behavior that emerge in response to a situation. Fads. Interests or practices followed enthusiastically for a relatively short period of time. Fashion. The widespread custom or style of behavior and appearance at a particular time or in a particular place. Examples. Remember Pokemon cards? They are definitely an example of a fad. Can you describe what clothing looked like in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s? How did people style their hair, wear their makeup? What you're describing are fashions that were popular in different eras. A social dilemma happens when a behavior is rational for an individual, but it can lead to collective disaster when practiced by many people. Tragedy of the commons. Many individuals overexploit a public resource and deplete or degrade it. Public goods dilemma. Individuals must contribute to a collective resource, even though they might not benefit from it. Social dilemmas are a third category of mass behavior. Example. Have you ever been in a really bad traffic jam? The traffic is backed up so far, you're thinking there must be a gigantic accident somewhere up ahead. When you finally get to the source of the problem, you see there's only one car standing on the side of the road. A man has a flat tire. How could something so simple create a problem so big? It is a social dilemma. It's no problem if one person slows down to take a look. It even makes sense. We want to be sure the individual is okay. But when everyone does it, it creates a huge traffic problem. Tragedy of the commons and public goods dilemmas are two specific types of social dilemmas. Take a moment to look at this table. A social movement refers to any social group with leadership, organization, and an ideological commitment to promote or resist social change. Armand Mauss identified the 4 stages that social movements tend to go through. 1. Public defines problem. 2. People organize. 3. Movement becomes bureaucratized. 4. Movement begins to decline. The first stage is the incipient stage, when the public takes notice of a situation and defines it as a problem. During the second stage, people begin to organize. This third stage is characterized by the movement becoming bureaucratized. Finally, the movement enters the fourth stage and eventually begins to decline. Activism. Any activity intended to bring about social change. Because society is constantly changing, new social movements and different opportunities for activism are constantly emerging. Emerging social movements may be characterized by whether they resist or seek to promote social change. Regressive movements attempt to resist social changes, maintain the status quo, or go back to an earlier form of social order. Progressive movements promote forward-thinking social change. Sociologists have developed a number of theories to explain the role of technology in social change. One common characteristic of these theories is an emphasis on technological determinism, the idea that technology plays a defining role in shaping society. Technology will continue to play an increasingly important role in almost every aspect of people's lives as society continues its transformation from a modern society to a postmodern society. Cultural lag refers to the time between changes in material culture or technology and the resulting changes in the broader culture's relevant norms, values, meanings, and laws. Cultural diffusion refers to the spread of material and non-material culture to new cultural groups regardless of the movement of people. Cultural imperialism refers to cultural influence caused by adopting another culture's products rather than by an imposing military force. Cultural leveling is a process by which societies lose their uniqueness and become increasingly similar. Modernity, the social conditions and attitudes characteristic of industrialized societies, including the decline of tradition, an increase in individualism, a belief in progress, technology, and science. Postmodernity, the social conditions and attitudes characteristic of post-industrialized societies, including a focus on the production and management of information, skepticism of science and technology. This concludes Chapter 16.